I haven't been excited about deadlifts like this in a very long time. I haven't been motivated to do deadlifts like this in a very long time. What happened 3 days ago now is basically, in my mind, a weakness, and I want to address it. One of you guys linked a video to me on Instagram of Chad Wesley Smith talking about it on that Juggernaut Strength Systems YouTube. I think that's what it's called, YouTube channel. I've seen that video probably 3-4 times over the years. The video's been out for 2 years now. And he basically talks about whether, trying to identify whether you are weak in the back or weak in the leg. I've spoken about this kind of concept in the past, trying to work out exactly how to approach it. Sometimes it's not very obvious to work out what the hell you need, man. Like it's you would think it's obvious. Oh, your hips are shooting early. Your good morning the squat. That means you have what, weak legs or weak back. What Chad Wesley Smith talks about is that that symptom could be caused by both of those things. You could have a weak back or a weak legs. So it was very interesting to once again hear him talk about this in this video. The one distinction that he did say, this is one of those things, man, like you can read the same freaking book 5 times and each time you're going to learn something. It's really weird how our brain works and how our brain runs off on a tangent when it kind of triggers a specific thought. You run off on a tangent and then you've basically stopped listening about whatever's coming next. I kind of find myself doing that all the time when I read books. Something will kind of trigger me. A thought will kind of take me in a direction. I continue to read, but then I realize that I haven't really paid attention to the last 2-3 pages, and I have to go back and work out what the hell was, what else was said. So there's a value in kind of revisiting some of these ideas again, like I've seen this video 3-4 times. The one distinction that he made was that if you do not have the ability, so you say you come down in the squat, you come out of the hole real good. Most people are pretty good in the hole. Come out of the hole, then you get stuck in the middle. And then you start to kind of like round over a little bit. Your hips start to kind of, go into that good morning position. One thing he said, which kind of stuck out in my mind, was that if you have the ability to grind that position out so you can good morning a squat, so you get into a real bad position and you can good morning that sucker up all the way to the top and finish the rep, you have a strong back. If you go down, bounce out of the hole, and you get into that, you start to get into that good morning position, and you can't do anything about that position, then you have to dump it, which is me, you have a weak back. So this is one thing that kind of stuck out in my mind. I'm like, okay, so I've gone back and forth about this issue for some time. I've got weak legs. I've got weak back. I've got weak legs. I've got weak back. And each time I've kind of tried to implement some of these ideas that I kind of come up with and concluded, no, this is what I need. And each time I've kind of realized, okay, maybe it's the other thing. Hearing Chad Wesley Smith talk about this time, I was like, okay, it makes sense. I don't have the ability to grind weights out. In fact, I've never stuck out I've never felt comfortable, right? I always feel like I'm going to snap city this thing up completely. So I always dump it. And some of you guys will go to me, man, you had that rep, man. You just got to push through it. In my mind, I'm like, okay, I could probably fight it. But, within myself, I know that if I continue this is going to be a bad idea. Whereas some guys, you see, they slow the hell down into that squat, right? They get into that universal bad position, sticking point, universal sticking position, and they grind it out. The bar stops and they continue to push. That is a symptom of somebody that has strong ass back, and he'll good morning that crap or deadlift that thing up off his back. He would just basically get into a deadlift position and push through. I've never had that ability. When that bar goes forward a little bit in a grinder, say, I have no ability to grind that thing. So in my mind now, it is clear that I need to train my back. This is why I'm trying to deadlift again. So 3 days ago, I was basically a broken man. And then I had 2 days of real bad kind of like pain. Yesterday, I went to bed. I was still in pain. I still couldn't really bend over and I had lots of DOMs. I had an 11-hour sleeping session, or 10 and a half hours of sleep. Woke up this morning, to my surprise, I was feeling like 100% better than what I did yesterday. So right now, I would want to say I'm probably around 80%, 85% fully recovered. I still feel the DOMs, but it's not completely real bad that I can't do anything. So I wanted to come in today and just basically work up to whatever I felt was comfortable. And as as I started warming up, I realized that I started getting looser and looser and looser, and the back started feeling better and better. And I ended up hitting 240. You'll see it in a second. 220, you can see here, moved quite well for me. And so it gave me the confidence to try 240. So I put 240 on, got that, and then I did basically the same thing I did 3 days ago, which was do a couple of fives at 200 kilos, which is kind of roughly 80% of what I was doing, kind of, what's my max. So that's basically what I did today. Then after this, in this particular gym, I squatted. I worked up to 180 squat as well, which was a surprise to me because I didn't think I had that in me after all the hack squats yesterday. Managed to do that all by feeling, right? I'm all just doing this session by feel, and I wasn't going to push anything. After I did the squats, I wanted to do some more back work. This gym doesn't have the 45 hyper. It does have the GHD. So I went to the area where that thing was located, and I just started messing around with it. I ended up doing 8 sets of 10, and then I did, to finish off, 2 sets of 20 on the GHD, and I kept messing around with the positioning of the pads and whatever. And I think the 45-degree hyper feels a ton better. I feel a lot better hamstring activation, a lot better glute activation. I just feel a lot better everywhere. But anyway, I didn't have the ability to do the hypers today, so I did this thing, and it was okay. This is the 240. I thought that went all right. I'm putting my hands up here. I'm thinking to myself, I don't know what's going on here. I didn't expect this. But anyway, I'm really motivated now. Now that I have a clear definition that I have a week back, I'm going to get after it. I'm going to get after it real good. I'm going to try and incorporate some of my philosophies about squatting every day. And I'm going to try and kind of ease into a more frequent setup of deadlifting. I think the best way to get resilience into a body part, to get resilience into a movement, is to basically do it more. Maybe do a bit less volume and increase the frequency. So that way you kind of trick the body into doing bite-sized pieces more often. And then at the end of the week, when you tally this thing up, you'll see that you have bigger volume numbers than you would have if you just stuck all that thing in one session, which is basically an argument which I continuously make about high frequency training. So that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to really, really try and push this deadlift, really try to push the hypers, the GHD, whatever the hell I have at hand, and I'm going to try and address it. Because once again, I've never been a type to grind out a squat. Granted, I've never wanted to kind of put myself at an injury risk, but deep down in myself, I knew that I've always known that I don't have the ability to grind. Like I just don't have that ability to be in that compromised position safely. And then once, like I see all the time people who are, I don't know, maybe they don't have the same leg strength as me, but they get into that bad boy, position, almost like a good morning, and they get that thing up. And I'm always sitting back, I'm thinking to myself, Jesus Christ, if I had the ability to grind out weights like that, wow, man, wow. Some of these people do 1 rep, and I'm like, man, that was ugly as hell. Then they go into a 2nd and 3rd rep doing the same thing, and I'm like, man, this guy's got a spine of like incredible spine. And I continuously see people like that lift, and one would say that that's bad lifting, but you could say that this guy's got a really strong back. Like he's doing a deadlift with the bar on his back, essentially. Now, some of you guys have said to me that there's a big discrepancy between my squat and my deadlift. I don't know what the ratios are. The ratios can kind of get really confusing. Like 250 is my deadlift, 210 is my squat. So, looking at those numbers, you would say, oh, no, you got weak legs. You got a really strong back because you can deadlift 250. But when you put body leverages into this mix, it gets a little bit tricky. Also, I don't know what the ratios should be, because I think a lot of people, compare their low bar squat to the deadlift, and those numbers were probably closer to me. I don't know. Some of you guys have said that my low bar squat will be 230 or 240. I don't know about that, but maybe if I put the bar lower, like a couple inches lower on my back, and I went to a half squat, maybe those numbers will be very, very similar. And then you can make that argument to say that I actually have a weak back because my deadlift is not too far ahead, or the acceptable distance further away from my squat. So lots of things to think about, but I have this fire in me right now to focus on the deadlift. You guys know that my number one focus is always going to be the squat. But once I've kind of worked out that, to get to the squat, I need to go this direction to, strengthen my back, then the deadlift becomes a means to an end. Like, I just want to get to a stronger squat. And if I can put some proper volume in without the fear of, getting stuck in that, universal sticking point, and not have the faith and the strength to kind of grind out some of these maybe ugliest reps, that's what I need. I need some security and insurance. And I've always said to you guys that I feel like if you have a strong back, a strong core, screw squatting, screw training. Life is easier. That position for us is fundamental. What can you do in life without bending over? I know a lot of people in the OH&S world, in the professional environment, they say to you that you need to pick up a box freaking like a candle, up and down the spine needs to be, send your knees into the next room, come down and pick up a box. I don't know about you guys, but that's a really unstable position to pick anything up from, like that, knees over toes, on your position, like heels up squat pickup. Like, I don't see people move like that in the fields. A lot of people work in that bent over position. What OH&S, and I have to sit through some of these things, part of my work. What they teach, sometimes it's like, man, do I really need to sit here? Man, like, my deadlift is 250. You're teaching me how to pick up an object off the ground like I'm an invalid. Sometimes I get really frustrated during these OH&S moments because they're teaching inefficient movement of the human body. You would think that, whatever allows you to move and shift the most amount of weight is the strongest and most efficient position. So if you are asking me to squat up a box off the ground, you're asking for trouble, because that is not the strongest position. Number one, where the hell is the balance? Number two, everything is in the knees. And you might, remove the tension from your back, but you're sticking all of that tension into the knees. And so, like what I did yesterday with the freaking hack squat machine, you can train, you can isolate the quads, but that is not the strongest position for us. You can't be lifting a box off the ground with a completely vertical spine. You're lifting a box off the ground. It's not a squat, right? So I feel like if a lot of people got really good at bending over and lifting objects in that bent over position, I think that is the human anatomy's strongest, most efficient position. So that's a mouthful. So if we get strong at the deadlift, I think the squatting becomes easier. And I think the squatting becomes easier to work with, right? I talked about sticky reps, ugly reps. If I can bias my back a little bit into those later reps, I want to squat with my quads. I've told you guys I want to squat a bit more upright. But as the set progresses, if I can leverage a bit more, say leaning over as the set progresses, I'm still working on my legs, but I just have the insurance that I won't drop the bar, because I can always deadlift this bar off my back. So few ideas here kind of running through my brain. I think what Chad says and what explains makes sense. What I found interesting was that, once again, I saw this video for the millionth time, but a lot of people think when you get into when you see a good morning squat, everyone's like, you have weak legs, your back's taking over. Not necessarily. You could have the same good morning squat position, and it's caused by two different things: a back or weak legs. So either those things are weak. What the distinctioning point is, what the difference, what he explains, is that if you are unable to grind out, if you aren't able to good morning the squat up from that shitty position, you got a weak back. And it makes sense, right? If you can't deadlift the bar up from that position, you have a weak back. Or a good morning. Like, what is a good morning, right? What is a good morning? A good morning is, you guys have done good mornings, it's all about the back, the posterior chain. It's not doing anything. So once you've got into that position, and you have to drop the bar, then you got a weak back. It's hard to think through, and sometimes it doesn't make sense. I'm gonna run with this. I'm gonna take Chad Smith's ideas here, and I'm gonna go forth. I'm drawing back on some of my experience as well when I did lots of pulling, lots of good mornings, lots of GHDs, back extensions. Each time I've implemented some of those ideas, I've had good success. So I'm going to leave it at that. And I'm going to just try and deadlift twice a week and put some real serious volume into that. All right, guys, lots to think about. I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Peace out.